to the program. This is Politics Today, live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimbalwe in Abuja. Let's get to it, everyone. And first and foremost, let's get to our countdown. Nigerians, have you been counting with me? So let's go counting again. It's 85 days to the presidential election and the National Assembly elections next year, February. And Nigerians will be anticipating the opportunity to elect their leaders in February. So get your PVC and make your vote count. There seems to be some controversies raging in the Labour Party with the Director General of the campaign of that party, Mr. Doyin Okupe, who now, barely 24 hours after the Ogun State chapter of the party announced its suspension. Now, the National Working Committee of the party is describing the action as unconstitutional, null and void, insisting that the state chapter acted outside its mandate. The National Secretary of the party, Mr. Umar Farouk, told journalists earlier today that at the party's headquarters in Abuja, the Labour Party leadership is solidly behind Mr. Okupe as he remains the Director General of the Presidential Campaign Council and a bona fide member of the party. Take a listen to him.
It has come to the attention of the national leadership of the party that the Ogun State chapter of the Labour Party has purportedly suspended one of the party member who happens to be the Director General of the Presidential Campaign Council. The Ogun State chapter has acted outside its constitutional jurisdiction. The party has internal conflict resolution mechanism of handling cases against party members as enshrined in the party's constitution. Therefore, the suspension of Dr. Doyin Okupe from the party by the Ogun State chapter is null and void. He still remains a card-carrying member of the Labour Party and the Director General of the Presidential Campaign Council. The party leadership will do everything within its powers to ensure that our cohesion is not tampered with and will not be distracted by the antics of the opposition candidate until all our candidates becomes victorious in the 2023 general election.
Well then, perhaps some relief from Mr. Doyin Okupe. I hope that the state chapter also will have gotten the message from the national body. Well then, let's get to hear some of the stories across the nation politically. And this is your political roundup stories and some breaking news that is coming, which you will get just in a moment. But first, your political roundup stories.
The convener of the Big Tent and political economist, Professor Pat Utomi, says Nigeria is ready for a change in the 2023 general elections as they go to the polls to elect a new president. Professor Utomi, during an interactive session with journalists in Abuja, says the polling agents are the first line of protection against rigging in any election. And the 2023 general elections will be a shocker for the major parties, as the Labour Party will have over 10 polling agents in all the polling stations across the country compared to the past elections.
Now we have, as Big Tent, worked at developing real structures, and they're going to be shocked by what they will see.
5,000 newly recruited teachers in Anambra State today received their letters of appointment to begin their teaching vocation in the basic education and post-primary schools in the state. Presenting the letters to the successful applicants at the International Convention Center, Oka, the state governor, Professor Charles Soludo, congratulates and eulogizes teachers as the greatest set of people that embody the hope of the society. The recruitment, according to him, was done by merit, as the future of a generation must never be sacrificed on the altar of favoritism.
In barely 8 months in office, we have been in office for just 8 months. We have been vigorously and simultaneously implementing the 5 pillars of our People's Manifesto.
Ahead of the 2023 general elections, the Kaduna State Commissioner of Police, Mr. Yekini Ayoku, is warning political parties and their candidates against the use of non-state security outfits for campaigns during rallies and other political activities, as he vows to arrest and prosecute candidates and their supporters who indulge in any act of violence or use provocative language before, during, and after the elections.
The engagement of non-state security outfits for campaigns, rallies, and other activities in the electoral process is not allowed.
The All Progressives Congress in Adamawa State says it is confident of victory of Mr. Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the presidential candidate of the party for the 2023 general elections. The Adamawa State coordinator of the APC Presidential Campaign Council and the former deputy governor of the state, Mr. Martin Babale, states this during the inauguration of directors of the council in Yola, the state capital. He describes Mr. Tinubu as a true Democrat who is ready to use his wealth of experience as a public administrator to change the present narrative in the country.
It is therefore expected that we will use this kind of politics as the long-run task ahead, but discharging your assignment competently.
The governorship candidate of the Labour Party in Abia State, Mr. Alex Oti, has promised the people of the state a good and working economy, which will address the numerous challenges faced by the people of Abia State if elected as the governor. Mr. Oti made the promise during a meeting with some residents of the state in Osisiomangwa local government area of Abia State.
Our administration will turn Aba into a 24-hour economy from a 12-hour economy.
The Independent National Electoral Commission is intensifying efforts in employing different means to educate and inform voters in Rivers State on proper electoral practices. One of such activities is the ongoing South-South Voters Conference put together by the Commission. In Port Harcourt, they brought the major players in the political space for conversations and brainstorming about the upcoming elections.
All right, then, thank you so much. Yeah, you've been served with your political roundup stories. Now let's tell you about some of the stories that are just coming in. Some good news for voters across the country. The news just coming in from INEC. INEC has now announced a date for the collection of permanent voter cards. It's now to commence on Monday, the 12th December 2022, to Sunday, 22 January 2023, as the collection will be in all the 774 local government offices of INEC throughout the Federation. News just coming in. INEC has announced the collection of permanent voter cards, and the dates, it will commence on the 12th of December, Monday, to Sunday, January 22, 2023. Of course, you get more of that, and what you need to do, just go to Channels Television's website. It's channelstv.com, and you get all the details as to what you need to do. All right, let's get started with our very first conversation tonight on the program. The 2023 presidential race is indeed looking like the Olympics. Okay, I'll tell you why I said so. The experienced, the deep pocket, the big boys, and the averagely new entrants are seeking to be Nigeria's president. Now, you know what happens in the Olympics. There are, in fact, upsets in the Olympics. You see some of the fastest are now being overtaken by the new entrants. Could this be the case in Nigeria's presidential election of February next year? Well, considering what we are saying, it does look like there will be some statement with some people with some big ideas and others with some very, very strong connections across the nation. How would all those pan out? We'll find out how all these work as we head towards the election. Well, tonight, we shall be speaking with the flag bearer of the People's Redemption Party, Mr. Kola Abiola. About 30 years ago, his father won the presidential election, which was later annulled by the Babangida junta. The PRP flag bearer said he was determined now to repeat the feat of his late father, Chief M.K.O. Abiola, in the June 12, 1993 presidential election. The 1993 presidential election was adjudged as the freest and fairest election in Nigeria's history. Let's speak with the PRP flag bearer, Mr. Kola Abiola. Thank you so much indeed for coming tonight.
Thanks for having me here.
Some people will imagine that the ambition of repeating the feat of your father might be a tall order, considering that you are just a new entrant. What gives you the feeling that you are the man that Nigerians would decide to vote as president in 2023?
I think, number one, in the political space today, my performance and my understanding of politics in Nigeria is not in doubt. I have played with many that are in that space today over time. I did at a very tender age back then, at 28, 29, Social Democratic Party. I performed, I delivered, and I believe I can do it again, number one. Number two, I think I am fresh. I am new, as you call it. I am new, but I'm fresh at the same time, in that I have the exposure and the experience. I've had that experience since 1979, immediately after secondary school. And I understand the space. I know what it's all involved. And I think Nigeria is looking for a new beginning in 2023. I represent that new beginning. I will represent the freshness and the unrecycled. I represent many of the players out there come from the proverbial poison tree, and their fruits obviously can never be edible. We represent the new set. We represent the borderline between the lost generation, which is my generation, and that can bring in the younger generation into governance, politics, and leadership in Nigeria by mentoring them and showing the appropriate way to do things. I represent collectively with Harold, my vice president, a new start, because we're going there without the encumbrances of the incumbent parties. We're going there with a new eye at events, policies, things to be done without the encumbrances of the past, and no loyalty to anybody but the country and the voter. So we bring all that to the table. Not just that, we come from a heritage that has sacrificed for Nigeria. Mine is well known. Harold's father, ex-military, he's fought for the United Nigeria over the years. And we owe it to Nigeria to make sure that we bring it to its full calling. And that's where we are at. We're using a party that is people-oriented, the People's Redemption Party. This is a party that over 50 years has never changed its ideology from being people-oriented. And we identify with that as individuals, and we hope by coming that we can let their voices be heard and their numbers count.
Do you equate yourself? I imagine that you share a lot of likeness with your father. Of course, I know the K in your name is not Kashima. Yours is Kola.
Kola.
Yeah. You look like him, yes.
Thank you.
But do you equate yourself with MKO, Abiola, to the point that you think that you can repeat the feat of 1993? I
think I cannot equate myself to MKO Abiola. I am his son, first and foremost. He's my mentor, like my mother brought us up to be, to understand he's our God on earth. And I have been the closest person to him throughout his life. Well, since I was born anyway. I was his batsman in many ways, and we worked total thing. So I have learned and picked up quite a bit, and we share a lot in common. Now, that said, I'm slightly a different person, for sure. But I am definitely one that shares in the aspirations to make sure that we come down, pick up people to help them. You can't stand up to help people. You have to go down, meet them at their level, bring them up and help. And we've done that, and I've done that over the years successfully, undoubtedly. More so, I hold the vision for Nigeria that he holds, one in which it's an equal opportunity employer that gives everybody the opportunity to strive and be something in this country. And I have demonstrated that over the years, in addition to many things I've done in the past. I was lucky to have him and my mom as parents that allowed us to venture out early enough, build on that, and that's why I'm here today. So sure that I can serve Nigeria and make Nigeria a better place.
You will be standing on the shoulders of many great men, such as MKO Abiola, of course, your father, and the likes of Malam Aminu Kano, some of the founders of the PRP,
right,
and the likes of Balarabe Musa.
Right.
These are great politicians in the past. But the question is, what does Kola Abiola stand for? Why should Kola Abiola be considered as a force within the Nigeria's political space? All of a sudden, Kola Abiola just came into the space and he wants to be Nigeria's president. And for those who think, does he really understand the pains of the average Nigerian? This is a guy who was born with a silver spoon. That's some of the perception of people. Do you really understand the pain of the average Nigerian for you to think that you want to lead them? Or what gives you the inspiration of wanting to be Nigeria's president?
I've said it before. I started off from very simple beginnings. I call it humble, but that gets very confusing at times. So I use the word simple beginnings. I started from a level that had nothing to become something. But all throughout that, I've been further humbled by events in my life. I've also never forgotten where I started from, and that's a very key thing. I've tried to lead as disciplined a life as possible. And not just that, in my conduct, and if you want to look at it from a silver spoon perspective, I think I've conducted myself in a disciplined manner, irrespective of that. I am who you see. I have traveled Nigeria since 1979. I have done at every level, every state, by road or by air. I have done a lot of politicking in this country since 1979, particularly 1992-93. I understand Nigeria. I know Nigeria. I have worked with a lot of very senior people, and I've learned a lot from them over the years. And I honestly believe I have the intuition, the patience, the credibility, and that's very key, credibility, to serve in Nigeria. Everybody knows who I am, where I come from, how I started, where I am today. There are no missing gaps in my history. And that in itself shows that at least I have taken, like my mom would say, at the same time. It's a matter of understanding what you are, the responsibility you've had to carry, and having led and given enormous responsibility from a very tender age. And I know, understand, and do not carry out excesses beyond my control.
All right.
I'm not one to gamble.
Yeah.
So if I'm not sure, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, we'll get into details and probably test the capacity and the ability of your passion of wanting to become Nigeria's president. First and foremost, we go into the manifesto and the agenda, the real reasons why you want to be Nigeria's president, because it's no joke at all. And whoever wants to lead Nigeria must be ready to take up a lot of responsibility, economically, security-wise, uniting the nation. These are ramifications that any leader of the country in the next dispensation needs to understand. Now, I'll ask you, since I'm trying to give some background and basis to our conversation. First and foremost, the base of the PRP was largely, a lot of people will make reference to Kano. And if you look at the PRP ideology and those who have held onto it and those who have also gotten political power through the PRP ideology, the Aminu Kano ideology and all of that, there's been some, they've gone their different ways in largely. Can you hold on to that base? Can you lay claim to the force of PRP within the Kano base? Because you have the Kwankwaso in Kano, you have the former governor who has gone to the PDP now, and you have the sitting governor. Kano has been described as a 2023 vote that will be decimated by the different forces that are laying claims to Kano votes. Right. Where is your Kano own base? Do you still have it? Does the party still have it?
Now, I think there's a stereotype here. PRP has always been seen as a northern Muslim party, not just even a Kano party. It's been seen because, if you recall, we had gubernatorial candidates that won in the former Kano state, which is Kano Jigawa, and the present Katsina states, which was Katsina back then. So it's a stereotype. But with Kola Abiola being the presidential candidate, with Haro Ziku being its vice president, we're a national party. We have 711 candidates nationwide. We have 23 governors, gubernatorial candidates, 33 territorial, over 400 House of Rep members, and the balance are all state assemblies. So we have a national spread. We're in every 774 of the local governments in Nigeria today. So it's a stereotype. That's number one. Number two, the roots of this party is the common man, is the grassroots.
How known is your party? What is the structure?
It's very, very well known at the grassroots level. I was at a mosque today, and everything was about PRP, even in Abuja. So it's not just a Kano party. It's a national party. So let's get that first. And then, with the representation we have nationwide, it's all about grassroots. Over the past few months, we've been all over the states. We've done a lot of local radio, local TV, deliberately because we are reaching out to the grassroots. And we're not a party that goes to flag off. We have a different playbook for running our campaigns. We actually walk the states that we go to. We just don't go and have a mammoth crowd at the state capitol, hire or paid crowds, make a noise for 1 hour and disappear. We actually go in there and we walk the states. We do an average of 2.5, 3 days per state, and that's how we walk it.
Are you funding the party by yourself?
No, I'm not.
But you brought your own money to fund the party.
In politics, you have to bring your own money for sure. But this is a party that, in its days, to go to rallies, you have to pay for the bus you ride to rallies. That's what we're all about here. This is a party that when I go to states, no matter how ramshackle our party headquarters is compared to the others, we still sit outside, we rent, and they pay their ways. We're the only party that had a convention in this country that everybody paid their transport, their accommodation, and their feeding. That's what PRP is all about. We're about the people. And everybody that has left over the years, the Kwakwenzos, like you mentioned, for example, the man out of Sule Lamidos and all that, they left. They're all originally PRP people, but they've left because the party is what it is. It's a grassroots, no money influenced party, and that's what it is.
Let's get into the manifesto. And you said that you were going to trump your father's own performance in the 1993 election, but he focused on eradicating poverty.
Right.
That is at the spine of his agenda in 1993, and that still rings a bell. And you see, in fact, vividly in my mind now, I remembered watching the man in the green and black torn clothing and where portraying how poverty was ravaging the country at the time and how Abiola was coming and all of that. And for the fact that some of the things that Abiola did, MK Abiola did at the time in that election were things that a lot of people thought that they were almost impossible, beating his opponent right in his own state. Now, the question is, what are you bringing to the table? First and foremost, you have talked about bringing cohesion into the country. You have talked about reinventing security architecture in Nigeria. First and foremost, let's talk about the issue of security that you said you are going to reinvent.
Right.
What do you mean by reinventing security?
Thank you. I'm not reinventing. What I'm saying is that what is on ground, the structure that is in place has never been used since 1999. That's what I'm saying. And what I'm saying is that if we use that structure, coupled with making sure that we harness all the security activity forces we have, making sure that the welfare of this is met, and aided with technology, we have an immediate response to the threat we have today. Now, our military is not meant to be civilian-facing, but right now, they are doing the role and playing the role of the police. If you notice in the past, our military bases were strategically placed based on assumed international threat. But now we have 8 divisions in this country because they are now domestically faced to deal with terrorism, banditry, and so on and so forth. That is not the case. Everything should still be led by the police.
What would you be doing differently? How would you make police effective?
Everything should be led by the police first and foremost. Now, if you take what they have on ground and you go back to the National Security Council and you actually have them implement their role, you would just make sure that each of the units we have, from the NSCDC, the SSS, well, DSS they call them now, even the military in the short term, all these units, if they come together, you will have a formidable security.
So are you planning to merge some of the NSCDC?
No, I'm not merging them. Everybody should have their own role to play. And then they have their own role. They have the expertise.
They have their role.
But they're not talking to each other. That's why I said the National Security Advisor's Office is the most unutilized office in this country today.
What would you do to that office?
Thank God, I think the president is doing something about that. They set up this new, from the office of the NSA, I forget what it's called now immediately, but they have, that role is supposed to be coordinating, bringing all that apparatus together and make them function as one unit.
What do you see?
Not at variance with each other.
What do you see as the major gap in our security architecture?
Welfare.
So what would you do to fix that?
Pay them right.
Where would you get the money from?
The money, look, if you can't pay salaries for 271 policemen in this country, then then there's something wrong. Pay their salaries and make sure it's paid on time.
Where would you get the money from?
The money's there. His money's there.
No, you should be able to tell us that these are the areas I think that the money will come from, because Nigerians want to know.
What are you doing? What are we doing with our security votes? We have security votes.
Security votes to the state?
No, even the presidency has a security vote.
Yeah.
Even the presidency.
But with the security votes, paid salaries,
but of course,
police.
But of course, there's more than enough to pay for the salaries. We have to equip our police. We have a command center here in Abuja that is barely functional. If it's there, let us use it. That's what I'm saying. If it's there, let us use it. We have the NSCDC. There's a lot of duplication in every of these.
So that's why I asked the question. So if there are duplication, are you going to merge? Because some people have suggested that some of these are just duplication. And for example, some people will tell you that there is this intelligence unit in the police force. The DSS, the intelligence unit of the nation. Now, you go to the NSCDC, they also have their own intelligence unit.
But they should all speak to each other. That's what I'm saying. Now, if you take, for example, you spoke about DSS just now. Sorry, 1 second. You spoke about DSS just now. The DSS is supposed to mirror your FBI, but your DSS is actually doing security service duties. They are detailing VIPs. That's not their role. You have to have a special unit for security service personnel. But they're actually doing security service personnel. They're not actually doing the FBI duties they should be doing.
Do you think
it's totality?
Do you think that's PIV role? I mean, PIV, VIP security services are needed in this country.
That's what you have the secret service for, not DSS.
So would you be creating an office for that? A unit for that?
The point is that they're not any different from what the police do right now. The police is doing police work and doing security at the same time, VIP security at the same time. 40% of your police force is doing VIP service. And your DSS is also doing the same. So you have police and DSS doing VIP security for the same person. It's a waste of personnel. So I mean, let every unit is designed to play its own role. Let them play that role first. Once they do that, then you will have things working the way they should work, not attrition.
Okay, so let's take a break, Mr. Abiola. Yes. And when we come back, there are some more specific questions I'd like to ask you that borders on your understanding of this nation, because it's a very complex country that we have, and now things are even more complex that we have almost 130 million people who are poor multidimensionally. That's what they've been tagged. So how do we get the poverty alleviated or even eradicated if it's possible? These are some of the issues I'd like to take you up on. We'll take a break, everyone. When we return, our conversation continues with Kola Abiola, the flag bearer of the PRP Plus. We'll also be talking about the challenge coming from Mr. Autumn and Mr. Wike, the governors of Rivers and Benue State, on what President Muhammadu Buhari said. They said, name those who are the local government fund thieves. What exactly are all these issues? We'll be hearing from Mr. Muda Yusuf, an economist. Stay with us, everyone. We'll be right back. Thank you very much, everyone, for staying with us. Kola Abiola, the presidential candidate of the People's Redemption Party, PRP, has been our guest tonight on the program. Thank you so much, Mr. Abiola, for your time. Thank you. So before I move away from the issue of security, I'd like to ask you a very last question on that. Banditry became another very, very troubling group of security challenge that we have in this country. Considering what we had in the eastern region of the country, the IPOB agitation and the sit at home, the northeast region and the north central region where we have Boko Haram threatening that region, it is a multi-security challenge that we have on our hands. In the very first week or month that if you are elected president, is there one thing that you think that you can do to ensure that you arrest the situation momentarily?
Yes, thank you. First, there's a group of officers that went to Belarus, 200 of them, for special anti-terrorism and banditry training. They got to Nigeria and they dispersed them. Instead of holding that group as a unit, the first thing I will do is bring that group back together as a unit. That's number one. Number two, I will make sure that, it also goes back to this welfare thing, make sure that their welfare is taken care of right.
Where I have a problem is where you get the money from.
Well, we'll get to that. Now, number three, there's this thing called, and it's about technology. Unfortunately, we have allowed it to fester for so long. And to date, if I remember, I'm told we have about 800 bandit camps in Nigeria today. 800. And there's this thing called lawful interception. For every kidnap, to the lawful interception and tracking, there's no reason why we can't put them out in 28 hours. And that I'm sure can be done, and that's one thing you should hold us to.
Using what?
It's a lot of technology-based things. If the Americans can sneak in here, take out a hostage, it's not one person being killed.
So there is a technology that we can use to fix this?
And it exists. Let us do it right. Because right now, the way it's being run, it's a value chain.
But unfortunately,
and we have to break that value chain.
If you do not win this election, that's a possibility. It's either you win or lose.
Yes.
If you do not win this election, and the ideas that you have, will you be willing to put them forward for the...
I'm a Nigerian. It's not about me or PRP or... It's about Nigeria. So I'm free to give whatever my thoughts are, I will give it for nothing.
What if they offer you a ministerial job?
I'm not going to take a ministerial job. I'm in this to win.
But
period.
There's a possibility that you win.
If I don't win, then I will make that party a strong party, and I will make sure I'm in that party to usher in proper leadership, the next generation of leadership. I told my role.
So you will never leave PRP?
I will not leave PRP.
You will never leave?
Never leave PRP.
You will stick with PRP?
I'm in this PRP to make sure I make it what it should be.
So it is about service to the nation. As if your service is required in a sector, you won't even take it.
I won't take a ministerial job. I will give my opinions as they come, yes. But I told you, it's about service to country and loyalty to country. So I'll give my opinions on everything, but not a ministerial. I'm 60. I'm not ready for that now. I'm not. So people ask me, why don't I start as a governor and all that? Look, Nigeria is more than one state. Nigeria is more than a territorial district. Nigeria, to me, is a unit. That unit has to stay together as one. And all I'm living for now is to make sure that does not go away. It's all about that. And whatever it is I can give in what I have in my head to make it better, I will give.
So if there is a possibility of an alliance,
yes,
would you consider that too?
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with an alliance. That alliance will come after the election. We will see who's standing then.
No, you don't consider an alliance?
I don't think we
Should
can
there be a second ballot?
That's why I said after the election. To have a second ballot, you must have a first ballot first. After the first ballot, let's see who is standing then.
Is there anyone in the race with you that you think that your ideology aligns with just a bit, that you might be able to work with?
I think it's very unfair to say that, because what I would look at is who is standing at that point in time. It's a matter of who is standing. Who are the first three, who are the first four at that point in time, and then we will know what to do next. But right now, you can't really say where that is going to be. What I know is that we're going to have the highest voter turnout in the history of Nigeria in that election. What I know is that if that happens, I don't even see a hung election.
The APC government honored your parents and
yes.
your family.
Right.
Do you have any kind of a soft spot for the APC?
I don't, because we earned that. We earned that. And I think more of it is an apology to the Nigerian public that voted for MKO. The public voted for MKO, and they've said thank you to him. But this is the government now saying sorry to the guys that were robbed, the collective voters that were robbed.
All right. Yeah. Mr. Abiola, I'll ask you one last question.
Yes, please.
And it's going to be on the economy.
Yes, please.
There was a very worrying report about Nigeria. 130 million Nigerians are said to be in a multidimensional poverty.
Right.
Do you have an answer to that?
Yes.
Fixing the poverty question.
Nigeria needs a Marshall Plan, and that's infrastructural development. To get not just the white-collar jobs, but more the blue-collar jobs. We need to go back to agric. We need to do it right. We need to make sure that all our river basins come to serve and do what they should do. We should make sure that agric is not just crops, but value added. We need to get our science and technology to add value to our produce.
So what figures are those telling you? If you have it all planned out, the idea of agriculture that you're talking about, if the government of the day said we have a revenue problem, that means you'll be looking at these areas that you said we need to be serious about generating revenue. So what are those figures telling you? How much do you think we can generate in the first year if you're elected president?
4 years, it takes time to, in my fourth year. That's what you mean?
It's going to be in the fourth year.
Yeah. No, I'm going to start it from day one. And that takes...
so what figure are you working with?
I would have, in the first year, we will definitely halve the unemployment numbers. Because with a massive...
If we have 130 million, so half of that will be about 65 million.
We will have that. We will have that because it's all about sustainable growth and creating an economy. And we are going to do some things that require that we distribute. Look, we're going to run a market-based economy to create liquidity fast. And that liquidity does not mean that government doesn't step in from time to time.
And you're not going to do anything about the oil and gas? That's the main
thing. The oil and gas is a double whammy. Number one, we have leakages. We have corruption, we have leakages. Right. But more importantly, our production is too low to make a difference.
On and on,
we need to at least produce 3 million barrels a day to make the numbers work.
Yeah.
We've worked it out. And with that, we need to stop importing. We need to domestic production. We need to make sure that we get the value added from our oil. After 63 years of crude production, we're still importing products, and all we do is export.
Would you be probing the subsidy regime of the past?
It will stop. It will stop.
Would you be probing it? The government said it will stop next year.
No, they're kicking the can down the road. Right. They should do it today if they wanted to.
Let's wrap it up. Thank you so much, Mr. Kola Abiola, the PRP presidential candidate. Thank you so much indeed for your time tonight. Appreciate it. Let's switch gears, everyone. President Muhammadu Buhari's statement at the presidential parley for members of the Senior Executive Course 44 of the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies, NIPS, they said out a few days ago that state governors still allocations meant for local government is getting some response. Let me allow you to listen to President Buhari on this. Then you get the response of Governor Wike and Governor Autumn.
The treatment of local governments. What they did, this is my personal experience. If the money from the federal government to state government, say it's 100 million, let's put it 100 million. 50 million will be sent to the chairman with a letter that he will sign that he received 100 million. The governor will pocket the balance and share it with whoever he wanted. And then the chairman of the local government will see how much he must pay in salaries to help goes to development. Money for the salaries will be given and the balance will put in his pocket. This is what's happening. This is Nigeria. It's a terrible thing. You cannot say the person who was doing that was not educated. He was a qualified lawyer. He was experienced. Yet he participated in this type of corruption. So it's a matter of conscience. Whichever level we find ourselves, that you need to sit here with all the sacrifices the country is making by putting you through institutions and getting you ready to lead. The fundamental thing is personal integrity. May God help us.
All right, that's the statement of President Muhammadu Buhari. But that has gotten the response from the governors of Rivers and Benue State, Nyesom Wike and Samuel Ortom. They've challenged the president to expose those governors who are still in local government funds. Take a listen to them.
I want to challenge Mr. President. Mr. President, you're a leader, and we believe as leaders, you must come out and tell Nigerians who are those committing this offense. You said the governors are taking local government funds. I want to say, in the name of Almighty God, I've never touched local government fund one day. I have never, and I have no reason to do that. So, Mr. President, tell us who are those people. You know them, tell us. It is not good to say what we call class defamation. They say governors. Please, I'm not one of those governors.
As Governor Nyesom Wike, well, his counterpart, Samuel Ortom, said similar thing, asking the president to come out with the names of those who are stealing, the governors who are stealing local government funds. Now, let's get a perspective of what this means. How much of retrogression and development breakdown the stealing of the local government funds could have cost our country? Let's bring in the perspective of an economist, the CEO of Center for Promotion of Private Enterprise and Economic think tank company organization, Dr. Muda Yusuf. He joins us from Lagos. Thank you so much indeed, Dr. Yusuf, for joining us tonight. I know this is a conversation you and I have had before, but give us an understanding of how bad that the local governments are being treated, considering the picture the president painted.
Yeah, it's very worrisome, the picture that the president painted. Earlier on, you alluded to the multidimensional poverty reports by the National Bureau of Statistics and its partners. And it's contained in that report. Look, we are talking about 133 million people in abject poverty. And 72 of that number are in the rural areas. So we are talking about close to 96 million people in the rural areas that are extremely poor. That's a reflection of the challenges that we are facing at the local government level. Accountability at the local government level is almost zero. Of course, we have accountability at different levels of government.
Dr. Yusuf, apologies to Martin. I thought that we've gotten to the point where there is an executive order that the pockets of the state and that of the local government should be split. Their money should be first line charge going to them. Are we not in that regime?
I think we are there, but don't forget some of the components of the funds that go to local governments are the payment of teachers' salaries, primary school teachers. And I recall that the Nigerian Union of Teachers said emphatically that they don't have confidence in local government administration, and that the state should continue to hold on to the salaries of the primary school teachers and be paying them directly. Now, this is not to diminish the importance of this financial autonomy of the local government. But the reality is that we have a major capacity problem at the local government level. Accountability is almost zero. Nobody sees their budget, and they also claim to have some parliament and all of that. So there's almost no accountability. So there's also a need to strengthen capacity at that level. And we have parliaments. We have parliaments at the local government level. We have parliaments at the state level. We have parliaments at the federal level. Their role is to ensure oversight. Oversight over the resources of states that are in the hands of the executive. How much of that oversight are we seeing, especially at the subnational level? Even their budgets. How much of details?
I want us to look at it this way, Dr. Yusuf. Is the fact that I am a local government chairman, and you are the state governor. And when that dichotomy has been set of how the monies go to the local government, how can the government then, the state government take? You are the state governor, take the money from my pocket. How does that happen? I thought the monies, like I asked earlier, has been split in such a way that the governors don't have access to the local government funds.
Well, if that is happening, then apart from the issue of the education payment of primary school teachers that I mentioned, in all of that, if that is happening, that's an illegality. And the local government authorities have the authority, they have the right to engage these things, to engage the state executives.
This is worrying.
That's guts.
Yeah, but this is worrying, isn't it? Because it is at the heart of the structure for the local government to be autonomous. It's at the heart of our federal, the proper running of our federal state. Now, going forward, what would you suggest as a solution to fixing this? If the president is saying the state governors are the ones not allowing the local government in Nigeria to function or to thrive, what is the solution, Dr. Yusuf?
Well, my solution is that first, we need stronger citizens' engagement. Because democracy is not just about elections. It's about the citizens holding their leaders to account. So we need to scale up the engagement by citizens of their leaders at the local government level and at the state level. Second, the parliaments in those levels, especially at the sub-national levels, to be able to exercise a lot more authority and independence. What we often see is that between the parliament or the state assemblies and the executive, there's almost a very thin line between them, so that there is no proper checks and balances.
All right.
And that is what the role of the parliament should be.
It's so sad.
At the state level.
Yeah.
So we need to strengthen that.
Dr. Yusuf, I must sincerely thank you for your thoughts tonight. At least it's giving us some insight into the way forward in allowing this tier of government to function. Well, thank you so much indeed, Dr. Muda Yusuf, the CEO of Center for the Promotion of Private Enterprise. Thank you so much indeed.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. That's our show for tonight, everyone. I'll see you on Sunday at 8 p.m. I'm sure Akimale. God bless Nigeria.